They laughed when she walked in, but no one laughed after the third shot. That's how it began. At a prestigious shooting range in Colorado, a 68-year-old woman in a beige cardigan and worn sneakers stepped up to the firing line. Surrounded by men in tactical gear and $1,000 rifles, she looked painfully out of place. The young instructor smirked. The elite marksman chuckled. And someone muttered, "No chance." They didn't know who she was. They didn't know what she could do. But in just 3 shots, they would. Before we begin, have you ever been dismissed at first glance? Press 1 if you've felt underestimated. Press 2 if you've ever seen someone shock the room by simply being themselves. Let me tell you about the afternoon Marianne Foster taught a lesson no one at Ridgeline would ever forget. The morning sun hung low over the Colorado hills, casting long amber shadows across the Ridgeline shooting complex. American flags fluttered lazily against a breeze that couldn't quite cool the dry heat. Black SUVs lined the parking lot, gleaming under the sun, each one announcing power and privilege. They arrived in formation, 6 men in tactical pants and designer sunglasses swaggering toward the registration building like it was theirs. The Silver Hawks. Elite shooters. Sharp, disciplined, and completely full of themselves. Marianne Foster pulled into a spot 3 spaces down, driving a dusty silver Subaru that looked like it had seen better decades. She stepped out slowly, adjusting her light beige cardigan, brushing a few strands of silver hair from her eyes. She wore no makeup, just soft confidence and quiet dignity. Her blue jeans were a little faded and her sneakers well functional, not fashionable. Inside, the atmosphere shifted the moment she entered. Conversations dipped. A young woman behind the registration desk looked up, puzzled. "Can I help you, ma'am?" she asked, glancing instinctively toward the schedule. "The community garden talk is down the hall, I think." A few low snickers echoed from the hallway. Marianne smiled politely. "I'm here for the rifle range," she said. "Marianne." "Foster, I believe I have a reservation." The receptionist blinked, typing quickly. "Oh. Yes you do. Precision range. With Instructor Vaughn." Her eyes darted up, surprised. "Is this your first official lesson?" Marianne replied, signing the waiver with a steady hand. "My nephew thought I should try something new for my birthday." More chuckles from nearby. One of the Silver Hawk's tall early 30s muscles, tightly packed into a black moisture-wicking shirt, sauntered over. His name tag read Derek Vaughn, and his jawline could have cut glass. "Mrs. Foster," he said with a smirk, offering a firm handshake. "I'm Derek. I'll be working with you today." Ever handled a rifle before? Marianne tilted her head thoughtfully. "Long ago. Might need a refresher. No problem. We'll take it real slow. Step by step." He said it like you would to someone recovering from surgery. Outside on the open-air range, the Silver Hawks had already staked their spots. Pristine, rifles lined up on benches, expensive scopes, high-end bipods, a small armory arranged like fine jewelry. They didn't look up as Derek led Marianne down the line past the serious shooters to a lane at the far edge. Isolated. Out of the way. "Here's good," he said, setting down a basic training rifle. "We'll start with the basics. This is the stock, the barrel, the trigger. Never point it at anything you don't intend to shoot?" Marianne nodded patiently. Understood. From the central lanes, Marcus, leader of the Silver Hawks, wandered over, curiosity piqued. He had that effortless smirk of someone who thought rules were made for other people. "New to shooting, ma'am?" "Oh, yes," Marianne replied calmly. "Always meant to try it. My late husband had rifles, but I never touched them. Thought I'd see what the fuss is about." "Well, this is the place," Marcus said, gesturing around. "We're prepping for regionals, real precision stuff. Connor, here's one of the best." Derek grinned. "Let's see if we can get you on paper by the end of the day." Back at her lane, Marianne adjusted her glasses and picked up the rifle. Derek demonstrated how to hold it. She mimicked him awkwardly as if unfamiliar. She looked through the scope, breathing shallow. The first shot rang out clink, missed entirely. Derek tried to hide his smirk. "That's okay. First shots are always tricky. Behind them, one of the hawks called out, "Try the kitty range, coach. She needs the Nerf version." Laughter followed. Another added, "Bingo night's gonna get wild." Mary Ann stayed quiet. She exhaled slowly, absorbing the recoil. The weight. The delay between breath and shot. She missed again. Derek adjusted her arms, leaned in close. "Relax your shoulders, you're too stiff." Across the range, a woman, Lena Morales, mid-30s, one of the few female instructors, watched silently. Brow furrowed. She didn't smile. By now, the Silverhawks had started placing bets how many shots before she quit. Ryan, the youngest of the team, filmed on his phone discreetly. "Grandma's day out," he whispered. Mary Ann still said nothing, but her eyes, sharp ice blue, swept the wind, the distance markers, the grass swaying faintly at 100 yards. She wasn't losing. She was learning. Mary Ann adjusted the scope, tilting her head just slightly enough to catch the direction of the wind without looking obvious. Her finger hovered near the trigger. She squeezed gently. Miss, not by much, but enough for the Silverhawks to snort and shake their heads in unison. Ryan leaned against the table behind her and stage whispered, "Maybe we should give her a cane to stabilize her shot." Another ripple of laughter. Derek sighed, wiping sweat from his brow. "Maybe we should switch to a 22. Lighter recoil," he offered, clearly losing patience. "No shame in starting smaller." "No," Mary Ann replied simply. "This one's fine." Derek didn't push back, but his expression made it clear he'd mentally written her off. Across the range, Lena Morales, still observing, folded her arms. She had watched hundreds of first-timers before, but something about Mary Ann's movements, her stillness, her gaze felt off. Beginners fidgeted. They panicked. Mary Ann didn't. She watched, measured, waited. Lena walked over under the guise of checking a rifle rack. She caught Mary Ann's eye. Just for a second. The older woman gave a slow nod. Almost imperceptible, but it was enough. Meanwhile, Mary Ann allowed Derek to reposition her hands once more, shifting her grip unnecessarily. His hands were firm, overconfident. He spoke slower this time, louder than needed, as if she were hard of hearing. "Remember, breathe in, hold, exhale slow, then squeeze." "I remember," she said softly. Another shot, another miss. Derek stepped back, arms crossed, now voice flatter. "You're trying. That's what matters." Further down the range, Marcus was running a rapid-fire drill, 5 shots, 5 bullseyes at alternating distances. He turned toward Mary Ann's lane and announced, just loud enough, "Some folks got it. Others should maybe stick to gardening." More laughter. Derek chuckled along this time. Mary Ann didn't react. She just glanced at her hands. They appeared to shake slightly. But Lena, still nearby, noticed something odd. The tremble disappeared whenever Mary Ann reached to load the rifle. Her fingers moved with quick precision, not the clumsy searching of someone new. They knew where the safety was, where the bolt clicked, how to feel for balance. Lena's eyes narrowed. Then came the final jab. Marcus strutted over, leaning an elbow on Mary Ann's shooting bench too close. "We do a ladies' night once a month, short range, lighter rifles. Wine and cheese after," he smiled smugly. "Might be more your pace." Mary Ann turned to face him. Her face, kind as always, didn't change much, but her voice? It chilled a few degrees. "That's very thoughtful," she said. "Do you separate shooters by gender or by skill?" Marcus blinked, caught off guard. "Well, it's just generally women don't have the same upper body strength. It's biology, not bias." "Is that so?" Mary Ann adjusted her glasses. "And yet—" Annie Oakley outshot Frank Butler in 1875. "I suppose she was an exception to biology." Marcus stiffened. "Well, modern shooting's different. More technical." Indeed, she said her tone soft but edged. "And more fragile, it seems." He stepped back, muttering something inaudible as he rejoined his team. Lena walked over casually. "You handled that well," she murmured. Mary Ann didn't turn. "I've had practice. Mind if I ask something?" Lena's tone was low. "You're not really new, are you?" Marianne finally looked at her. A small smile curved on her lips, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm new enough. Lena nodded slowly. You've done this before. I've watched enough, and sometimes watching tells you more than doing. Lena tilted her head, suddenly understanding. Then they're in trouble. Marianne didn't answer. But in her next shot, she made a subtle shift in position, one that Derek hadn't taught her. Her breathing steadied, the trigger pull softened, and the shot rang out. It clipped the edge of the target. Not center, but enough to silence the laughter. For a moment. Lucky hit, someone muttered. But Lena knew better. That wasn't luck, that was choice. The sun was nearing its peak, turning the gravel of the ridgeline range into a shimmering canvas of heat. Derek wiped his forehead again and adjusted his sunglasses, now visibly flustered. Marianne had just landed another near-perfect shot barely an inch from the bullseye, and while he tried to act pleased, something about it unsettled him. "This rifle's really working out for you," he said, trying to keep his tone light. "Maybe you've got a natural touch after all." But inside, his thoughts were racing. Natural, no. That kind of micro-adjustment, the way she corrected for wind just by the feel of it on her cheek, wasn't instinct. That was training. He stepped back, watching her more closely now. Not her aim, her body, her rhythm. There was a pattern, a method. Controlled. Calculated. She was hiding something. Meanwhile, Lena Morales wasn't just watching. She was investigating in silence. She had pulled up the registration log and double-checked Marianne's ID earlier. It was real. Marianne Foster. 68. Local address. No red flags. But Lena had seen too many male instructors wave off women like Marianne. Too many grandmas treated like a punchline. And yet, Marianne's calm unnerved her. At first, Lena had chalked it up to good posture and nerves of steel, but the inconsistencies added up fast. Like how Marianne's trigger discipline was flawless, yet she pretended to flinch at the shot. How her fingers always found the right place on the grip even when her eyes were struggling to focus. And how, even when Derek tried to correct her aim, she barely moved, only just enough to humor him. Lena approached the back office quietly. Logan, she called to the facility manager, a retired Marine who now spent his days watching over the range like a hawk. He looked up from his desk. "Yeah. You ever hear of a Marianne Foster before today?" He shook his head slowly. "Can't say I have." "Why, just something about her feels off. Not bad off, just deliberate." Logan leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You think she's military?" Lena shrugged. "Maybe not current, but she's not new. She's playing a part." He scratched his beard. "We ever get a signature match from our old competition database?" No, Lena said. She signed the waiver by hand. "No digital profile." "That's odd," Logan muttered. "Everyone signs digitally now." They stared at each other for a beat. Then Logan said, "I'll make a call," quietly. Back outside, the Silverhawks were gathering behind Marianne again, this time more focused, more silent. Marcus still wore that cocky grin, but it was growing thinner. He whispered to Ryan, "She's messing with us, right?" Ryan nodded. "She's acting like a rookie, but she moves like, I don't know, like my drill sergeant." Dustin, still scrolling on his phone, muttered, "I swear I've seen her before. Somewhere. Maybe online. Old military footage or something? She's probably ex-FBI," Ryan said sarcastically. "Or Navy SEAL grandma." But none of them were laughing anymore. Marianne pretended not to hear, but her ears were sharp. Always had been. She lined up for another shot, took her time and landed just outside the center ring again. A consistent miss slightly to the left. Intentional. Derek stepped beside her once more. This time, he didn't speak. He just watched her breathe. "Can I ask you something?" he finally said. Marianne didn't look up. "Of course." "Why?" Now he asked. "Why pick up a rifle at 68? She smiled gently. "Why not?" He studied her face, trying to read between the lines. "Because people don't just decide to learn precision shooting out of nowhere. Not like this." Marianne's gaze didn't waver, and yet That's exactly what I've done." But Derek wasn't convinced. Not anymore. Behind him, Lena returned her phone in hand. She leaned into Derek and whispered, "Check your messages." He glanced down. A forwarded article had just arrived, from a regional marksmanship magazine dated nearly 40 years ago. M.E. Foster breaks national record in long-range precision shooting 1,000-yard confirmed bullseye with iron sights. Derek stared at the headline, and then at her. Marianne E. Foster. She hadn't lied. She was new. Just not to them. He looked back at her now, not with mockery, but with dawning understanding. Marianne turned her head slightly, noticing the shift in energy. "Is something wrong?" she asked calmly. "No," Derek said, swallowing hard. "Not at all. I just think I've been teaching the wrong person." Marianne offered a smile that was gentle but firm. "Everyone learns something eventually," she said, "even instructors." Derek took a step back, still processing the truth unraveling in his hands. Marianne Foster. Marianne E. Foster wasn't here to learn how to shoot. She was here to observe, to test, to watch how they'd treat someone they thought was beneath them, and they'd failed. Every single test. He looked over at the Silver Hawks, still lounging, still watching, but the smirks had thinned. A quiet unease had crept into their body language like animals sensing a shift in the food chain. Marcus paced slowly behind his team sunglasses now pushed up onto his head. He wasn't smiling anymore. Meanwhile, Marianne gently opened her duffel bag and pulled out something different, a long, weathered case. Derek recognized the shape instantly. "May I use my own equipment?" she asked, her voice polite but resolute. Derek hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, whatever makes you most comfortable." When she unzipped the case, it was like unveiling an artifact. Inside rested a custom-built precision rifle worn smooth at the edges but every component gleaming with purpose. It didn't boast. It didn't shine. But it belonged. "Beautiful piece," Derek murmured. "Where'd you get it?" Marianne smiled without looking up. "A gift. From someone who believed I could do more than I thought." The Silver Hawks gathered slowly, curiosity dragging their egos into formation. "That your husband's Ryan," called out half-joking. "No," she answered simply. "It's mine." She moved to the bench, no more staged fumbling, no more hesitant posture. Every motion was sharp, deliberate. She adjusted the bipod like a surgeon preparing for an incision, checked her sights, calibrated windage, and drop. Her breathing slowed until it was almost invisible, and then she looked up. "Derek," she said, "I'd like to try the 1,000-yard target." His eyebrows lifted. Even now, part of him couldn't help but protest. Most of our regulars don't even hit that clean on their best days." "I'm aware," she replied. Behind them, Marcus chuckled. "Even we don't always hit it. I know," Marianne said, meeting his eyes. "I've seen your scores." He blinked. "Excuse me." She didn't repeat it. Instead, she chambered the round and leaned into the rifle like a woman greeting an old friend. Derek turned to the group. "We'll need a spotter." Marcus stepped forward, grabbing his scope. "Fine, but this should be good." He set himself next to her, ready to call the miss. Eager, even. Marianne adjusted the scope once more, the wind whispering against her cheek. She counted the sway in the distant grass, closed her eyes for half a breath, then opened them with complete stillness. Crack! The sound of the shot echoed through the hills like a bell. Marcus's eye stayed locked on the scope, his brow furrowed. No way. He stood up slowly, turned around. It hit. A hush fell over the range. "Bullseye?" Derek asked. Marcus swallowed. "Dead center." She reloaded, didn't speak. Fired again. Crack. Another hit, a sliver away from the first. A third shot. Crack. The three formed a perfect triangle, so tight, so clean it could have been laser drawn. Ryan muttered under his breath, "What the hell?" Dustin, wide-eyed, had already dropped his phone. Marianne sat up slowly, exhaled, rolled her shoulders. Beginner's luck, she offered just loud enough. Derek stepped forward, his earlier tone gone replaced by awe. Who are you? She gave him a knowing look. Just a woman trying out a new hobby. But I do like to finish what I start. Then she stood unhurried and began cleaning the rifle with practiced grace. Marcus stared at her. You've competed, haven't you? I have. Military. In a manner of speaking, she said. But that's not what today's about. He looked stunned. Then, what was today? About Marianne. Paused, looked at all of them. Derek, Marcus, Ryan, the others. It was a test. For you. They blinked. I wanted to see what kind of men you were when faced with someone you thought didn't belong. She zipped up her case, stood tall. And now you know what I see. The range fell silent. Not from shame. From the slow, creeping realization that every smirk, every joke, every patronizing word, they hadn't been harmless. They'd been measured. And they'd been found wanting. The silence on the range was no longer awkward, it was reverent. Gone were the smug grins, the sideways jokes, the casual condescension. What replaced them was a weighty stillness like the moment after a storm when everything is clearer, starker, undeniable. Derek stepped forward first. His voice for once had no polish. I owe you an apology, he said loud enough for all to hear. Marianne didn't respond. Not yet. I judged you, he continued, before you even fired a shot. I spoke to you like a child. I treated your presence like a mistake. That wasn't training talking. That was ego. She met his eyes. And now Derek swallowed. Now I'm realizing I've got more to learn than I ever thought. Behind him, Marcus crossed his arms, eyes flicking between Marianne and the distant target still painted with 3 perfect strikes. You could have humiliated us, Marcus said. I didn't need to, Marianne replied. You did that yourselves. The words weren't cruel. They were precise, surgical. No venom, just fact. Ryan looked down at his feet. Dustin let out a quiet breath. You played us, Marcus muttered more to himself than to her. No, she corrected. I observed you. You played yourselves. That's when Logan, the range manager, walked out from the office and slowly approached the group. He wasn't smiling either. Mrs. Foster, he said formally, extending a hand, it's an honor. I knew your name sounded familiar. She shook his hand with quiet strength. It's been a long time. Too long, Logan said, glancing at the group. I remember watching your 1,000-yard match in '82. Thought I'd seen magic that day. Derek's eyes widened. You were, that Foster Marianne gave a small nod. Once. Why now? Logan asked. Why come here after all these years? She looked out at the range, watching the flags flutter against the afternoon sky. Because I've been following this team, she said, and something bothered me. She turned to Marcus. You're all highly skilled, technically impressive, but you've stagnated. He stiffened. We're ranked top 5 in the region, and flatlined for the last 2 seasons, she said. Why? No one answered. Because skill without humility becomes showmanship. You chase gear upgrades instead of technique. You compete with each other more than you mentor. And worst of all, she paused. You discourage everyone who doesn't look like you. A hush spread again. From the edge of the range, Lena Morales stepped forward, arms folded across her chest. She's right, Lena said, voice clear. I've been here 4 years. I've brought in promising young women veterans, even high schoolers. They quit after 1 visit. Why? Because of the way you made them feel. The Silver Hawks didn't argue. There was nothing left to say. I came here, Marianne continued, not to embarrass you, but to wake you up. She stepped toward his bench and picked up her rifle again, not to fire it, but to cradle it like something sacred. Every shot you take should be an act of respect for the craft, for the weapon, for the people standing beside you. Marcus looked genuinely shaken. You really watched our competitions, I did. 3 of them. I kept waiting to see someone in your team show leadership, grace, generosity. And we failed, he said. No, she said gently. You forgot. She turned to Derek. You have good instincts, but you let praise get louder than your purpose. You teach from ego, not heart. He nodded, eyes downcast. That's fair. Then Marianne glanced at Lena. And you? You stayed. You watched. You believed it could change. Lena's jaw tightened. I did. Now it will? Marianne said if you want it to. That was when Logan cleared his throat. Mrs. Foster, he said I would like to formally invite you to be a guest instructor at Ridgeline, lead a workshop. Teach what only you can teach. She considered it. I'll do it on one condition. Name it. I want everyone from the ladies' Thursday night group invited. All of them. They deserve more than wine and cheese. They deserve a place at the line. Marcus nodded slowly. Deal. Marianne looked around the group one last time. Respect, she said, isn't given to you because of your rank, your gear, or your gender. It's earned by how you treat people, especially when you think they have nothing to offer. She slung her rifle case over her shoulder and walked off the range. Nobody followed. Not yet. Behind her, Lena called after her. Will you come back next week? Marianne didn't turn around, but her voice carried across the gravel. Tuesday, 9 a.m., sharp. Bring your questions, and leave your ego at the door. By the following Tuesday, something had changed in the air at Ridgeline. The Silver Hawks, once late arrivals strolling in with half smiles and louder than necessary laughter, stood quietly in formation by 8:45 a.m., rifles cleaned, eyes forward. There were no jokes this time, no posturing, because they knew who was coming. And when Marianne Foster stepped onto the range wearing the same beige cardigan and calm expression, she wasn't alone. Trailing behind her were 7 women, some younger, some older, some with rifles of their own, some clearly nervous. They wore ball caps, ponytails, modest gear, and uncertainty on their faces. Until they saw the looks on the Silverhawks' faces, equal parts respect and embarrassment, and the quiet nods from Lena and Logan. And then they knew they belonged here. Marianne moved with ease between the stations, greeting the new arrivals like old friends, and not once mentioning her title, her trophies, or her past. She didn't need to. Instead, she paired the Thursday night shooters with members of the Silver Hawks, not to compete, but to teach each other, to listen, to observe. Hold the rifle like it's an extension of your breath, she told a young woman named Carly, gently adjusting her stance. Not a tool, a rhythm. Carly fired, missed. Marianne didn't flinch. Again. Beside her, Marcus was working with Grace, a 50-something former schoolteacher who had never even held a rifle before last month. Okay, he said, quieter than his usual tone. Watch how your elbow flares when you breathe. Let's bring that in. Grace smiled. Are you the one who made the bingo night joke? Marcus reddened. Yeah, that was me. Good, she said. I was hoping to outshoot you today. And to everyone's surprise, he grinned. You just might. Lena watched it all unfold from the sidearms, folded, her heart swelling with something she hadn't felt here in a long time. Hope. Even Derek seemed transformed. He spent the morning listening, asking questions, shadowing Marianne not to critique her methods but to absorb them. You've never taught like this, he said quietly during a break. Not even with your old teams. Marianne smiled faintly. They weren't ready. These kids, they might be. Do you think we can change? She looked around the range at women laughing beside the men who once dismissed them at the way even Ryan was showing Carly how to stabilize her scope without being condescending. You already have, she said. Now the work is keeping it. By noon, Logan called everyone in for a brief announcement. The sun was high, but no one looked ready to leave. I've seen a lot of shooters come through Ridgeline in the past 20 years, Logan began. Some champions, some showboats, some quiet killers, but very few brought change with them. He gestured toward Marianne. What she's done here in 1 week, we should have done years ago. Then he looked at the Silver Hawks. From now on, you train as a unit, not just as competitors, but as mentors. You want to lead in rankings, you start by leading with humility. Then he looked at Lena. And Lena here will be our new co-lead instructor for all mixed training days. Marianne's requested it. I agree. Lena's eyes widened. A quiet gasp rose from some of the women, and then applause. From everyone. Even Marcus clapped first. Later that day, as the crowd thinned and the range quieted, Marcus approached Mary Ann by her bench. "You know," he said, "when you first showed up, I thought you were going to shoot twice, cry, and go home." "I know," she said not unkindly. "I deserved to be humbled," he admitted. "We all did." Mary Ann packed her rifle carefully, her hands steady. "You had talent," she said. "What you lacked was perspective. Now you have both." Marcus nodded slowly. "Will you keep coming back?" Mary Ann zipped her case, then looked up. "I'll be here every Tuesday, but not to teach you how to shoot. That's your job now. I'll be here to remind you why." By the end of the month, Thursday night transformed into Community Precision Days, open to all skill levels, no judgment allowed. The Silver Hawks, now renamed the Ridgeline Unity Team, began climbing the national rankings again, but this time with something they'd never had before: respect. For the craft. For the range. And most of all, for people. The sun dipped low behind the Colorado hills, stretching shadows across the now empty range. The sounds of clinking rifles and overlapping voices had faded, replaced by a quiet breeze rustling through the flag overhead. Mary Ann Foster stood alone at her bench, wiping down her rifle with slow, deliberate care. She wasn't in a hurry. She never was. Today hadn't been about proving anything. It had been about watching something shift, something deep and real. Footsteps approached behind her. Lena handed her a cup of coffee still steaming. Black right, Mary Ann accepted it with a grateful nod. Always. They stood there for a long moment, watching the range in silence. "I didn't think they'd show up today," Lena admitted. "At least, not like that." "They didn't show up as who they were," Mary Ann said quietly. "They showed up as who they could be." Lena smiled. "You're staying, right?" Mary Ann chuckled softly. "Well, someone's got to make sure they don't forget." She glanced out at the hills, the last light of day catching on the steel targets in the distance. Targets that now held more than just bullet marks. They held change. She placed her rifle in its case, zipped it shut, and turned toward her car. "Same time next week?" Lena asked. Mary Ann gave a small smile as she walked away. "Bring the coffee. We all know someone like her. Someone dismissed, overlooked, written off before they even speak. Maybe that person is you, or maybe it was someone you once laughed at until the day they surprised you. If this story brought someone to mind, we'd love to hear it. And if you believe stories like this matter, quiet stories with big hearts, hit that subscribe button. We've got more where this came from. Because sometimes the most powerful voices don't raise their voice at all. Thanks for watching. See you next Tuesday.